Hi, friends. As promised, we are going to begin a read aloud in honor of National Poetry Month this month. Since it truly is National Poetry Month, we want to become more aware of poetry, grow in understanding the different kinds of poetry, and come to enjoy poetry more and more. And I couldn't think of a better book to help us become more aware of and enjoy poetry more than this book. Gooney Bird is so absurd. Gooney Bird Green is a character in many of Lois Lowry's books. She has a series about this character. And this particular book will help us encounter different types of poems. And we'll be doing some activities with those throughout the month of April to celebrate National Poetry Month. So let's begin to get acquainted with this main character and begin to see the setting and the plot that unfolds in this story, and perhaps even what theme we might come away with. Gooney Bird is so absurd by Lois Lowry, illustrated by Mitty Thomas. Title page. Gooney Bird is so absurd by Lois Lowry, illustrated by Mitty Thomas. And we also see on the title page that it was published, made into a book in 2009 by the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Publishing Company. The story is dedicated for Amelia Jansen. Read along with me and look to see if you can catch Mrs. Jett making any mistakes in her reading. Chapter 1. Mr. Leroy's voice crackled through the intercom speaker after a fifth grader named Henry Newmeyer had led the entire school in the Pledge of Allegiance. "This is your principal, Mr. Leroy," he said, and Mrs. Pigeon's second graders all laughed. They knew he was their principal. He didn't need to tell them. It wasn't like the day in October when Gooney Bird Green had appeared in their classroom for the first time and said, "I'm your new student." She'd needed to explain that because nobody had had a clue who she was. And she had arrived wearing pajamas and cowboy boots, which made her somewhat mysterious. But everyone already knew who Mr. Leroy was. He was Water Tower Elementary's principal, and he was the best principal, the children thought, in the whole world. He was smart and funny, and he wore the most interesting neckties, except for the blue striped one. He had explained that his wife's mother had given him the blue striped one for his birthday, so he felt that he had to wear it now and then. He really thought it was a boring necktie, but if they had ever met his mother-in-law, they should not tell her that he thought that. "I just want to alert you all to the weather forecast," Mr. Leroy's voice continued through the intercom. "I guess we shouldn't be surprised since it is January, but the prediction is for snow tomorrow. Walkers, be sure to wear warm boots and mittens," he said. "That's me," Ben announced from his desk. "I'm a walker. I'm wearing my LL Bean boots tomorrow." "Me too," Nicholas chimed in. "I'm a walker too." And bus people? Mr. Leroy went on. Me, Keiko said in her very quiet voice. And me, Chelsea announced. I get on bus 11 at the corner of Cherry Street. Be sure to be extra well behaved on the bus, Mr. Leroy reminded them, because the driving might be difficult in the snow. We want all of our drivers to pay careful attention to the slippery roads, not to children who might be noisy or wiggly. That's you, Malcolm, somebody called out. Malcolm grinned. It was true. He did have trouble sitting still. He was wiggling back and forth in his seat at this very moment. Of course, Mr. Leroy continued, if there is a lot of snow, you know what that means. Snow day, the children all called out. Snow day, okay, Tyrone shouted. Snow day, Mr. Leroy said, like an echo, even though he couldn't hear Mrs. Pigeon's classroom from his office. But let's hope not. We all have lots of schoolwork to get done, don't we? Now, he added, some of you have noticed that I'm wearing my reptile tie this morning. Mrs. Pigeon laughed. Yes, he is, she said. I saw it when I was having coffee in the teacher's lounge. It gives me the creeps. I love that one, Beanie said. It has iguanas and everything. Komodo dragons, Barry added. Oh, gross, murmured Keiko, who hated anything that might possibly be slimy. Shh, Miss Pigeon said, still laughing. She pointed to the speaker and reminded them to keep listening to the principal's voice. So, I'll sign off by saying, see you later. Alligator! The second graders called out as the intercom went silent. Throughout the school, each class said, alligator! And then Water Tower Elementary School fell silent as the teachers and children began their day. I think I'm going to stop there for today. These chapters are a little bit longer, and sometimes these videos have a hard time downloading if they're too long. So that will keep you wondering about what will happen in the rest of the chapter. I don't have my nosy bookmark this time. I've decided to make a bookmark from the last book with the theme, the lesson that I learned from Eugenia. Sometimes as a way to hold on to thoughts and ideas that have come to me through other stories, I might like to write them down and make a new bookmark. So maybe you want to make a new bookmark with your themes. After you read each new book, maybe you could pin them up and have a collection. Mine says, you're never too old to learn something new about yourself. I'm also never too old to remember my noisy dog. Signing off. See you next time.